Okay. All right. So we're very lucky today to have our author, Ben Rader, with us today, and his mom, Helen. And Ben's Blanco County comic mysteries have made Best of the Year list and Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, Kirkus Reviews, and Field and Stream. We published almost 30 books, I think. And it's just an amazing list that you have. And we're just very grateful to have you here with us today.
Well, I
Thanks for being
that.
here.
Sure. Well, let's start with a very important question. Chiefs or Eagles?
Eagles here. Eagles.
Well, there's a couple of Longhorns on the Chiefs, so I kind of anyway. But so another important question. So are all of you like active writers right now? Everybody? I mean, that's the intent of the group, right? And so everybody has a manuscript working.
Everybody's welcome, but a lot of us are writers.
Okay, good. Well, I'll try to kind of, keep to stuff that will interest you more than, than if it was a group of readers. I know you're readers as well. But, and then I've also, published traditionally, and I've since gone out and done a lot of self-publishing. And so feel free to interrupt me at any point and go, hey, tell me more about this or whatever. But I'm just planning just to kind of give you a general rundown of where I started and where I am now and some of my books and that kind of thing. And so I was born and raised here in Austin and went to UT. I was an English major, minored in Miller Lite. I stole that from Kinky, big time. He probably stole it from somebody else. Anyway, so I went to UT, and while I was there, I was just needing some kind of part-time job, making a little extra money. And I had this friend, kind of a soccer teammate that had worked at an ad agency as a delivery person. And he was about to leave, and that was going to open up. And I thought, well, I'll give that a shot. That sounds kind of interesting. So I go to this ad agency, apply for this job. I get it. This was back in the day where you could like drive from place to place in Austin 40 years ago. So, I mean, we'd go from, St. David's to First Federal Savings, Southern Union Gas, and we'd race to see who could make the fastest loop and be like 45 minutes all the way out to Stack. But anyway, so I did that for about 5 months, and it was actually a lot of fun when you're 19, just driving around all day, listening to music and getting paid for it. So, but eventually one of the owners said, hey, we're going to bring you in and bounce you around inside. You've done a good job with this. We'd like to see where you fit in. So for a little while, I worked in account service, which that's great, but it just really wasn't me. And then one day, the CFO put a flow chart on the wall of all the people in the agency and where they fit in and their titles and names and blah, blah, blah. And down at the bottom, it said copywriter's assistant. And there was no name in the box. So I knew there wasn't anybody doing that. So I go to the main writer, Mary Summerall. You'll see her name at the beginning of every one of my books because I'm still very close with her. And she's one of my editors. But anyway, I go to Mary and say, hey, can I try this? I'm an English major. She goes, oh, sure. So, it's like, so I thought it would be like, making copies and running errands. But they actually let me start writing on, ads, brochures while I'm like a junior at UT. So I just kind of stumbled into this job that graduates would have really killed for. I didn't really know it at the time. I learned it later, just how fortunate I was. And more than anything, that's kind of, even more than being a English major, that's where I learned to write, at least how to write the kind of voice I use in my books. Because in the ad business, you want to be like casual and clever and hopefully a little witty and just grab attention and hold attention, versus sounding like a term paper. And for a while there, a lot of my stuff was sounding like term papers. And Mary was just the best boss and very, very good at guiding me and not just, and would push me to be more casual and write it this way and massage my copy a little bit. I'd go, oh, okay. And so I guess, I don't know, a little while went by before it was finally like something kind of just a switch got flipped. And I was like, oh, I get it now. And so I started kind of was able to find this voice for the ad business anyway, and for each client individually. And it really was just the most fun working. I was 19 years old. I'm working in the creative department. I don't know if you know much about ad agencies, but it's just like art directors and writers and, the bosses, creative directors. And at that time at that agency, there was maybe 30 people total in the whole agency, and the creative department was 12 or 15 people, just all young, single, busy, fun people. And so I just gravitated toward them and just had 6 great years. After I got out of UT, I continued working at this ad agency as a copywriter. And so I just kind of stumbled into the career completely. And so I worked there for a while, then another couple of agencies, and then I went freelance and did that for many, many years because Mary went out first. I was like, is it safe out there, Mary? And so she did it and did it very well. And so I went out freelance and did that for many years. Meanwhile, during all of this, going back to when I was who knows what age, I was always a very avid reader, of course. I'm sure all of you are too. I mean, I would read a ton. And I loved getting the boxes from like Scholastic. Do you remember those? When you order books at school and get those boxes of books. It was just, and they had a smell to them. Oh, I'm just filling out the form. I want this one. You insert the little bubble. That was so great, and I'm sure it cost, we were probably paying for them, but my mom was always so supportive of me reading literally anything I wanted to read. And, I'm not a parent, but if I were, that's the way I'd be. I remember grabbing hold of some books that were my parents, like The Godfather and The Exorcist, when I'm like 11, and going, yeah. And then I think that The Happy Hooker. Do we remember that one?
That book.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it must have been Dad's, Mom.
Yeah.
No, it was a bestseller back then, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it wasn't like smut. It was her like story. Anyway, I don't think I probably went, oh no, I shouldn't be reading that. Says I'm muted, I guess.
Oh, you're fine.
No. So anyway, after I'd been at the agencies for a long time and was a professional writer and a big reader, people would always ask me, well, why don't you try to write a book? And I would say, why don't you try to write a book? It's like, that's especially in the ad business, you have a sentence or two or 60 seconds on a radio spot. You got to be so short. And I just thought, I'm not trained to write a book, but eventually one day my wife's dad, my father-in-law, handed me a copy of Double Whammy by Carl Hiaasen. Said, I bet you'll like this. And I absolutely loved it. And I was just like, what on earth is this crazy story? And it was just so funny and engaging, and there was a mystery that I was always just crime fiction, mystery thrillers, etc. So I just loved it and read his whole collection and did some Elmore Leonard and various other, all those Florida guys down there, and the Janet Ivanovich, just a lot of just the funny stuff, it wasn't just traditional. So that actually kind of prompted me, okay, maybe I will make an attempt to write a novel. And that was my New Year's resolution. I think it was going into 1998 to attempt to write a novel. You'll notice the word attempt in there. So then I could fail and still meet my New Year's resolution. Like I tried to write a novel. So, what am I going to write about? We had just bought a place in Blanco County. So I said, well, there's a setting. I love it out here. It's sparsely populated. Who's the protagonist? I was a hunter. I said, why not a game warden? I know a lot about game wardens after all my arrests. I mean, but so a game warden, Blanco County, I knew I'd want to be silly and fun with it, but still a mystery. So I came up with my, John Marlin. Marlin is obviously a fish too, but it's also a brand of rifle, which is why I named him Marlin. I have a Marlin rifle. And then, I came up with his best friend, other people, the sheriff and their deputies, and then a couple of rednecks, or what you might call cousin, named Red and Billy Don. And those guys just unexpectedly became the fan favorite by far. And my editor at the time at St. Martin's was like, oh, put them in the next, keep putting them. Every time I'd say, should I put it? Oh, absolutely, put them in there. So put them in every book. And I was like, okay. So I did. And they're still, it's the comic relief, they're just by far, I mean, the most emails I get, everyone going, I live in Maine, or I live in California or Ohio, but I know those guys, they've all got versions. They might call them something else other than redneck, but they have that version and they just think that they're fun. And so anyway, so then what's my plot going to be? Well, the first book was Buck Fever. I happened to be sitting in my deer blind, listening to the radio, and the news came on, and there was a story about a drug mule. And he had like swallowed condoms full of whatever it was, probably heroin, and got on a plane. And I can't remember what happened to him, whether he just got caught or he died. I won't give away too much, but that kind of inspired a thought for me for my book involving wildlife and game wardens and Blanco County. So I was off and running, and I just completely made it up as I went along. I didn't have any kind of, I did have the the climactic scene in my mind. It was going to be on opening day of deer season and blah, blah, blah. But I just made it up as I went along. And normally I would say it took me 20 months to write it, but that's not really right. I mean, I took 20 months simply because there's no reason to rush when the only person waiting for it is your mother. As much as I value my mom's opinion, there's nobody else waiting. Like, when's he going to finish that book? You know. So I took 20 months, and surprisingly, my mother liked it. And
Big surprise.
yeah, and but then I showed it to Mary Summerall, my old boss, and she's like, you know, you ought to try to get an agent for this. I think you have a shot. And so I was like, I didn't know anything about that. And I'm probably going to be telling you a bunch of stuff you already know, but especially back then, it's like the year 2000, things hadn't really changed yet that much. And so I got Jeff Herman's big fat book of, you know, whatever it's called, like his guide to agents, editors, strippers, and whatever it was. So, but it was very helpful because it told you exactly who the editor was or the agent was, what they had sold in the last year or two, what their address was, what they wanted. And usually it was just a single page query letter. Most of you probably know this. So that's something you don't know, though, when you're writing a book and suddenly you go, I've spent 20 months writing this and I don't even get to send them the first page. Most of them, not all of them. Some of them go like send 3 chapters or whatever, but most of them just want the query letter. And so there's a lot of pressure on that letter and it really has to be good. And so I can't even remember what my first letter was. And it did all right. And they're also saying, don't try to be clever and cute in your query letter. Just write a good query letter. So that's what I thought I did. And it drew a few responses. And finally I'm like, man, in the ad business, you've got to be a little cute and obnoxious, is it maybe a better word. So I wrote one that had like a multiple choice, you know, they could choose whatever they wanted, like leave me alone or, you know, send me 3 chapters. And it did all right. You know, I got some responses and they would just pick it and send it back, but still didn't get an agent. And I took as long to get an agent as I did to write my novel, just to give you an idea, but I'd send them out 10 at a time. And so the letter that finally did it was I had a query letter that said, like, dear so-and-so, and then it was blank all the way down. It said, sincerely, Ben Rader. It said, P.S. Sorry, I couldn't write a brilliant letter. I used up all my best words in my novel. Do you want to see it? And so that thing just, everybody loved that. And they got all the, oh, that's hilarious, sure. And so I get a call after a while from a guy, hi, I work for Nancy Love. Can you send her 3 chapters? So I sent her 3 chapters back when people made phone calls. So I send her 3 chapters. A week or 2 later, he calls again, says, can you send the rest of it? I send the rest of it. And then she calls and I know, okay, I'm making progress. And she said, I remember the first thing she said, because I was writing it down and it's in the front page of my scrapbook. And it said, she said, I might be making a terrible mistake, but I like this book. So there's a vote of confidence, right? But it was just so interesting to me that, I mean, she was probably at the time 73, 74, this East Coast, Upper East Side, New York woman that I, you know, didn't know rednecks, didn't know hunting, but she still was interested in it. And it made me realize, you know, you don't have to be any of that, you know, as long as it's entertaining, you tell a story. It's like, I'm not a murderer, but I read about murderers all the time, and I'm sure we all do. So that was just something that was good to know for all the rest of my career, because I have a lot of people that just assume, oh, I bet you're big with hunters. You know, honestly, I don't know that I am. I think I'm just big with well, hopefully medium-sized with readers, you know, maybe not big, but medium. But most of you had never heard of me before we booked this thing. Anyway, so she accepted it. And this was like, I guess 2001. Then they do an auction, you know, well, not an auction, but they send it out. And if you're lucky, there's a bidding war. You get obscenely rich. Or if you're me, you get one offer, and it's, you know, with Minotaur, St. Martin's Minotaur, which is probably you all know, like they put out, probably they used to anyway, put out more mysteries than anybody else. I haven't really kept up with that side as much. I assume they're still putting out a whole bunch of mysteries. So they buy a bunch of mysteries. It's kind of a, I hate to say it, but like throwing stuff against the wall to see what sells, right? And then the ones that do keep going on. But I had a fantastic, I didn't know this at the time, but my editor, also named Ben, was 10 years younger than me. And it was his first book he had ever acquired. And he's like editing Harlan Coben, and
Wow.
I'm trying to remember all the big names. So he was extremely talented, great guy. It couldn't have been any better. So there was a 2-book deal, another one, then another one. I did 6 books with St. Martin's, but then he got hired away by, I can't even remember. You know, they have all these different imprints, and I can't remember who they're all with, and all the big publishers. But what is it? I can't remember which publisher he's with now, but you look at his stable of writers and they've sold, you know, just millions and millions of books because he does a great job. So anyway, at some point, you know, I got a new editor when he left, and he was a good guy. It just, I don't know that we really ever hit it off that well. And I think sales had kind of, you know, had consistently gone up in the offers, but then they were kind of doing that. And so they made an offer for book 7, and it just wasn't the greatest offer. And I was just like, how much longer do I want to like have this lucrative hobby? That's what it was. My goal was to make a living at it. I told Ben Sevier, my editor, that was my goal. And it's like, that's hard, you know, and it still is, and it was. And so I finally just decided, no, I don't want the latest offer, and I passed. And so I wrote something completely different, which actually I wrote The Chicken Hanger. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It was with TCU Press also. And then I wrote the first Roy Ballard, and I sent it to my agent, and I remember her going, "Oh, I thought you were going to write a thriller," and I don't remember ever talking about writing a thriller, and it's just a pretty traditional mystery, and so she was kind of, I think she would have pitched it if I had like kind of pushed her on it, but things were starting to change then. This was 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. The Kindle was coming out. People were starting to like do stuff on their own. And I was almost kind of relieved when my agent said, you know, I don't know, and kind of hemmed and hawed. I said, no, that's fine, because I want to put it out on my own. And now I'm trying to remember the timeline, but at the same time, or near, right before, right after, it's like everybody kind of knew what was happening with ebooks and the Kindle and e-readers. And I think a lot of people realized, you know, there's a lot of potential here. I don't know if they realized where it was all going to go. And so when I asked St. Martin's for the rights back on my first 4 books, they said, sure. And now none of them were in print. They didn't have ebooks. They didn't, and then the print versions had all gone out of print. The last 2 were out as ebooks. So they denied me on those because they were technically, well, to me, that's not in print. And I went back and forth with their lawyer on that for a long time once I started seeing the potential. I mean, very good naturedly, but I hounded him for 2 years saying, that's not print. It says a reprint, you know, things like that. And he finally, you know, he just would never give them to me. And I finally got 1 back, but one of those books is still with St. Martin's. But anyway, I got 5 out of the 6 back, and that's why it's priced so much higher than all the rest. Like, come on, people. And not in, you know, Kindle Unlimited either. Anyway, so I put them back out. And I think a lot of people were doing that at the time, especially, you know, writers that are trying to get a deal going, or, you know, find an agent. It's like, now there's a choice, you know, and I imagine it's a tough choice. Do I keep trying to get an agent and go the traditional route, or do I put it out on my own and see what happens? And I think, you know, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing either way.
If
I mean,
you were just about to complete your first book, knowing what you know now, which direction would you go?
Man, that's so hard to know. But I think I would probably, you know, I don't know what the query situation is nowadays. I imagine most of them are by email. I hear some of them are answering you in an hour or 2, because they're all, you know, young and used to it, and you know, they don't want their inbox, you know. So I would probably query, you know, 50 top agents, but very quick. And if I would, because there's always the chance you might get some enormous offer depending on what you've written. And who wouldn't want that? You know, I'm not now, if I thought it was like about what my offer was, and I'm not trying to shame St. Martin's for their offer. It was nice of them to publish my books. It just was not like the kind of big offer where everyone goes, wow, you know, it's just a traditional, pretty typical offer for mysteries at that level at that time. So that would be other thing, like if I got the offer, if I got an agent and they got an offer, the same offer, would I even accept that? I don't know. It would depend on my age, you know, all that kind of thing. So, but I would probably query. And I've had people where they've asked me to read their manuscript. I have, you know, there's only, I always feel like I need to be really honest with people when I read their manuscript. You know, I'm not doing anybody I can't see. If I tried to go be a singer, I would hope people would be very honest with me and go, look, this just is not for you. You may do better at something else.
Right.
But if they said, oh, you know, kind of hemmed and hawed, you might have some potential, that would just be not doing me any favors, because I absolutely cannot sing. And so, and you know, I would want to be like courteous about it, you know. So, but occasionally I'll run into someone and go, wow. I ran into several in the last couple of years. We're like, wow, something needs to be done with this book. And so then I'm like, okay, what do I tell them? And I tried to tell them, you got two paths here, and I'll tell you, you know, what I think about these paths. But I'm not going to say you should do one or the other, but I do tell them, you know, I know at least one person that really got an enormous life-changing offer, and why not try for that? You know, it depends. You know, if you wrote a typical mystery like mine, I would consider them fairly typical. You're probably not going to get an enormous offer.
Right.
But if you wrote something that's kind of like literary fiction that also has the potential to be an enormous seller, which doesn't always come along very often with that combo, then you might get an enormous, or something that just does the genre, something new, you know. So spend a month or 2 or 3 querying agents and see what happens is what I would probably do myself. And then when it was just done, I'd probably be like, okay, good. Now I'm done. Now I can just go do this on my own. And it still might not go anywhere. I mean, it's like I try to tell these folks that I help that, I mean, even with a great book, it's just so hard to gain traction. And, you know, I'm, you know, for about 10 years now, this is all I've been doing. I stopped freelancing, and I'm just very fortunate. I mean, I recognize how much luck and just timing was involved. And just if I hadn't had those books from St. Martin's, I don't think there's any way I'd be able to do this for a living right now. I'd be still freelancing. And that was all right. I like that. But it's like I was able to pull that readership over to my new books, because it was like after I put the republished books out in 2011, whenever it was, it's so funny to watch your dashboard on Amazon and go, oh, look, a sale today, you know, versus waiting 10 months for a royalty statement. Hey, I sold one, you know. It's just
is the big, you know, maybe potentially problem with the first book is that, you know, you could query people to get an agent and a publisher, but, you know, how many more months are they going to want to wait for the next book to even pick your first book?
Yeah. And they're going
to see that.
So if anybody ever asks you, do you see this as a series? You know what the answer is.
Yes.
Of course I do. 2 and 3. Yeah. I've got ideas all over the place. Yeah. So always be ready for that. Anyway, when I put them out there, they started, I mean, it was a novelty at first. It's like, oh, look, I sold 12 ebooks this month. Wow, you know. And then it started to grow, you know, and there was other people that I knew that followed a similar path, that theirs was growing too. And I was like, this has potential. And so I said, now it's time to write another Blanco mystery. And I did. And and it just slowly over, let's see, probably 10 or 12 years, I would go back and forth. And I'm still doing that between Blanco and Roy Ballard. Finally, to the point, like about 10 years ago, I just told my last client, sorry, guy, I'm going off and doing this thing. And it just didn't look like it was going to slow down. And luckily, you know, that's the other thing, is you got complete control of everything. I mean, I have a very great, wonderful group of editors, including my mom and Mary, and they're all Mom, Mary, Marcia Moyer, you know, Marcia, a couple others, and then another group of proofreaders / copy editors, and I value every last one of them. Couldn't do it without them, but I'm also free to go, no, I'm not going to take that suggestion. If they say, why isn't this character like Norwegian instead of Guatemalan? I could just go, nah, you know, or why doesn't he get murdered much earlier, or things like that, you know, big picture things. I can always just go, nope. Now, if 2 or 3 of them are making the same kind of comment, I go, okay, there might be something here. But just the freedom to do whatever I want, publish it whenever I want, you know, write it however I want. It's just amazing. At one point, I almost got sucked into another deal. It's a really strange thing, but it was like taking a very popular singer's song and turning it into a novel. And it was also going to be through St. Martin's. And it just did not go well. And to the point where I finally just stepped away, and it was just like, oh, it feels so good to not be involved with that anymore. He just had a very firm idea of what he wanted, and he's not a novelist, you know, but more power to him. Find someone that can fulfill your vision. But because anyway, that was 5 or 6 years ago, and I was just glad it died, you know, before I even signed a contract. First, I was pushing for a contract. Then I realized by the time I was done, I was so glad I didn't have one, you know, because I could just go, okay, people. And I learned later that I was like the 4th writer they had hired to try to do that.
Wow.
That's the problems they had. But and that was 5 or 6 years ago, and I haven't seen that book yet. So so then going back to my own thing, you know, and it's just it's so much fun, freedom. It's like, you know, nobody even knows what I'm doing until I give the first draft to my editors, and versus checking it. And even though my editor was great, it's just, you know, you get this 4, 5, 6 pages of notes, and you're just going like, and most of them I would agree with. I don't know that some of them necessarily made it a better book. It just made it a different book sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. It's fine too. But then also like, oh, that cover, you know, we don't have elk here in Central Texas, you know, so don't put an elk on my, oh, that's an elk? Yes, that's an elk. No, that's not a white-tailed deer you chose, you know, things like that. Or a cyca deer on one of the, that's an exotic, by the way. On the large print edition of Buck Fever, they had a cyca, you know, it's like, I imagine most of you don't even know what a cyca is, right? Okay. That's how weird it is to have put a cyca deer on there. It's from like India or somewhere. They get brought in over here sometimes. So
with your well-established readership, how much are you spending time-wise, like writing and then marketing? Are you writing at least 80% of the time and only marketing 20% of the time? Or?
Yeah, I would say it's that. And I definitely, you know, I've always been a fairly fast writer and a fairly lazy guy. So I'm not working 8-hour days, you know, and I haven't for a while. And when I was freelancing in the ad business too, you know, it's like always thought, man, I could probably bill way more every week and month that I do, but I'm having a ball. Why would I like? I just haven't been driven that much by, you know. I know one author that turns out I think it's like 3 to 4 books a year.
Yeah.
And I've read a couple, and they're you know, they're marketable, and his readers love them. And I just think, should I try that? And I'm like, no, I don't want to, you know. I want to do, you know, I'm on usually 9 to 10 months per book, maybe a month in between, that kind of deal. And it's suiting me, especially, I mean, you know, I'm not going to retire anytime soon, but I'm 60. How much? I'm not working like I was 40 or 20, you know. So it's kind of nice I probably work, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours a day, that kind of thing. And now I'm like, there's times I'm writing by 7 o'clock simply because I don't sleep. I can't sleep late anymore. So I'm sitting there and I check email and whatever. And then suddenly I'm like, all right, might as well get started. And so if I get a pretty good run, you know, before lunch and get like even close to what I have for my quota for the day, then I know, okay, I don't have as much pressure in the afternoon. I can kind of slack off a little bit, or I can just not even do anything. But that's kind of my schedule. I don't work on nights. I don't work on weekends. Yeah, I might go, oh, I forgot to book that ad and go in there and do that or something. But I'm not a writer at night or on the weekends, and just never have been. And when I was in the ad business, I didn't ever like refuse to work late for anybody, but I just wasn't my thing, and I wasn't going to do it. And somehow it is a young person's business where a lot of people do work late. And I just saw it at one agency, the back of the building faced our parking lot that sloped upwards, and we all parked out there, and everybody would work late at this agency. And I never really understood why. I think they worked late just because it was like they didn't want to be seen leaving on time. So I would be walking up to my car and I hear people knocking on the window like, we see you. I'm like, I'm done with my work. What am I supposed to do? Just hang around for appearances, you know? I just never understood that. And then, you know, and I know some people just put their blood into these agencies and then eventually get fired or laid off to be taken, you know. And 5 or 6 people get laid off, senior people, you know, just like, so do you regret those 12 years you just put into that agency?
Yeah.
You know, anyway.
And you worked for yourself when you moved to the copy editing? I mean, after
Copywriting, you mean?
copywriting? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I worked for agencies for about 7, 8 years. And then in 91 or 92, I went out freelance and I've been self-employed ever since.
That's great.
Haven't been, I have nightmares about having to go to an office job. I literally do. There was a time like probably 10, 12 years ago when my income was starting to dip a little bit. I was like, do I need to get a job? You know, it's like, and it literally would have just, I'm not prone to depression, but it would have put me in depression. I had to go into an office job every day. Sorry if you have to do that. Some people thrive on it, you know. Some people,
Oh, yeah.
I've talked to people who are like, oh, I have to go in. You know, I'm not like an introvert, but I'm not an extrovert either. I don't really need that interaction. I once went 16 days without being in a moving vehicle and seeing nobody else but my wife, you know. I think she got sick of me, but it's like I'm all right with a little bit of limited interaction and not going anywhere, you know. So
Those of us who live in the hill country, we're very lucky, but it's changing so fast.
yeah.
How are you working your books with that?
Well, I mean, Blanco County isn't changing nearly as fast, although it is changing. We bought our place like 30 years ago, and this little Caliche Road that goes past my gate, there used to be a time when it might rain, and I would go out a week later, and there would be no tire tracks past my place in that week. Now I might have 10 or 12 vehicles going past it a day. They're building houses. It's a big loop. And it used to go all the way around, but now you can't get down the hill over here. So everybody has to go up here and then back out here. And so I see all the traffic that goes by, and they're building houses back in there, and prices have just gone just insane. I mean, I got such a good deal 30 years ago, and I mean, it wouldn't even buy. It's probably
You
about.
live there?
No,
Okay.
I built a little cabin out there.
Okay.
We live like just north of Dripping Springs.
Okay.
And you know, I used to live off Cuernavaca for 25 years, you know, right across the road, which direction. And Mom still does. Because she moved back to Cuernavaca. I went to Westlake. Westlake kid. But sorry, to get back to your question, the main way I address it is in my Roy Ballard books, having him bitch about it all the time. Because he's a native Osagai. He's kind of me, he's kind of not, but he, you know, is always just like going on a little too much about the traffic and all these new buildings he doesn't recognize.
What a nice outlet to have.
It is.
It
honestly is. It's like, I mean, I don't even recognize Austin anymore. I mean, I don't blame anybody for moving here. I think anybody should be welcome wherever they go and all that. It's just that it just is going to change the place, and it's just unrecognizable. I mean, there came a time finally I'm going in town one day, and I'm like, I just don't even know what all these buildings are. So much had gone up so fast, and I don't pay any attention. I'm like, what is that? I don't know what they are. Are they condos? Are they hotels? Are they, you know? And I don't know their name. So one time I actually got a skyline shot and like labeled all the buildings just to like the Austonian. You know, I was like, I didn't know what that was, but it's a condo tower, I guess. And now in the Roy Ballard, he's kind of writing it. I mean, he's kind of dealing with the building called the Bowie. Does anybody know the Bowie? Now, it's not ultimately going to be the Bowie because they have bad security at this building. And I don't want them to, but I'm modeling it after the Bowie, you know, and I'll probably call it the Crockett. Yeah. Yeah, it's like I don't want to slander anybody, you know. It's like if I have a restaurant in the Blanco County novels that's a real restaurant, and I talk about how good the food is, I'm going to name the restaurant.
Yeah.
But if there's a roach in the food, I'm probably not going to do that, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it is just booming, and it does affect Roy Ballard, just not John Marlin nearly as much, and the whole Blanco County stuff. Oh, sorry, you asked. Sorry. Yeah. How long have y'all all been here in Austin?
I have a question. This is Jenny.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Groovy. Where's my picture? This is about Ben and Becky. Do you like to go into Austin to go out to restaurants to eat? I know you go there to get a lay of the land. We lived there for a short time, and every once in a while it's like, oh, I know where he is. So I imagine the Austonians get really excited to know. And you lived there a long time too. So do y'all like to go in, or is it a chore? Do you like to travel? Do you have a motorhome. Tell me about that.
Well, Becky is very much up for going out, going places, and I'm much more of a homebody, and I try to not. Oh, that Jenny, I know Jenny. um, so I try not to be the wet blanket that is always, keeping us from going in. We're going out to dinner tomorrow night at some restaurant with it's Becky's birthday. So we're going out tomorrow night. Actually, it's at Mopac and Bee Cave. So does that count as town anymore? I think. Yeah. And then, I usually enjoy it when I get there. It's just the parking and the traffic and, it's just, we have this band we love called Skyrocket. I don't know if any of you have seen Skyrocket. They just do cover songs from the 80s and 70s. And they're really, Trish Murphy, she's one of the main members of Skyrocket. And they've been playing more at this place, 310 ACL or ACL 310, whatever it's called. It's on 3rd Street downtown. And it's that building that's part of ACL somehow. I'm not sure of the connection. And so getting downtown on a Friday night at 8 o'clock, usually Becky will go, I'll drive, and okay, you drive, because I'll be like, and then getting in a parking garage and just, I don't know. I don't want to sound so negative all the time, but I'm.
It's okay not to like that stuff.
Yeah. If you want me to go anywhere, the best thing to do is tell me it's west of town.
Closer to your house, yeah.
If I have to go even to a more remote area, like this isn't bad at all. It's like if they had said, oh, it's at the downtown, some branch downtown at 5 on a weekday. Oh, I don't know. You can send a car. Yeah. And Mom's been Ubering quite a bit and avoiding traffic that way for herself.
I love it.
Yeah.
I still drive to Bee Cave mostly, but since I started taking Uber, I just love it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my parents to make the transition.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Right.
I have some things that I want to do that I just don't want to drive to. It's no fun at all. Driving should be fun. I love to drive. I love to drive out in the country on little country roads. Well, I grew up in West Virginia, so.
So did I, and we vacation a little bit. I try to not deprive Becky because she would go.
She wants to get up and go and you want to enjoy your spread. Well, me, I just want to say, Ben, that I consider you one of the most successful people in my sphere because you've found your niche early in life and you followed your bliss and you made it work. And it might not have fit your pictures every minute, but you're a happy guy. You have what you want and you live happy. And I love the way that you promote Becky on her birthday. And, you're a happy guy and we appreciate that. That's why you can write all those fun stories.
I appreciate that. That's nice of you to say. And yes, it's Becky's birthday tomorrow. So
Oh,
take all the. Let's talk about her instead. Becky's very supportive and talented and does all my cover art. She's a graphic designer and freelanced herself for many years. So we're in the house a lot together. I mean, all the time. So we're like different offices. And so we aren't just on top of each other the whole time. And but yeah, she's done very well for a long time. She worked at actually one of the same agencies I did, just not at the same time. And Sokola Martin.
So who's in the works right now? Who's next? Who's in the works?
Okay, another, Roy Ballard, the next Roy Ballard.
All right, I think I'm all caught up on that.
I'm moving a little slower,
So is Roy.
It seemed like a lot of things were popping up, and I just finally said, you know what, I'm just going to lower my quota a little bit because I have a quota that I try to meet for the week. And so it'll be out, but I'm about probably 75% done. I'm at the point where I went, oh, this is all garbage, because it's every book.
Yeah.
Surely. And the cure for that is to go back and read the whole thing again. And I always like, oh, okay, I like that. That's kind of funny, And I feel much better after I read and make edits because I don't edit. I edit as I go mostly. And how, And most of what you would see as I'm writing is pretty close to what the final thing would be. Because I don't go back when I'm done and make like massive changes. Because hopefully it's tight enough as I go, you know. So my quota for the week usually isn't huge, but it's like virtually exactly what's going to be published at the end of that week versus going back. Yeah, I mean, I feel better about moving forward at that point, you know, when I'm not like, oh, I'll fix that later, or I don't know if I like that character or anything like that. It's like, no, I wouldn't be able to go forward feeling that way. So
Yeah, see, that's what makes you successful.
yeah,
Can I tell you a funny story about how I found you
sure.
back a few years ago? I had just listened, I like Audible a lot. And I had just listened to a story that was read by Jonathan Davis. So
Oh, yeah.
I went looking for some Jonathan Davis books and ran into Buck Fever, which was, I mean, I've listened to these guys so many times. It's just so delightful. And then you ended up changing readers a couple of times, which
Yeah.
you finally, I think it's Johnny now, Johnny Pepper, who I
Pepper.
love. He's great too. But I
Yeah.
knew when Jonathan Davis said that John Marlin's girlfriend, and I can't remember her name, was from Seguin.
Oh,
Seguin. I thought, oh, he just lost his job.
did he say that? Oh, no. I didn't listen to, honestly, I didn't listen to a lot
I
of
knew
it.
you never heard it,
Yeah.
but I thought that was so
And
funny.
that's out of my hands. See, I'll just go on audiobooks for a minute. But you know, when you do a deal, for those of you who haven't, you know, they buy the publishing rights, which does not include all, you know, audio, TV, movies, blah blah blah. So your agent holds on to that, or you do, and then you sell hopefully individual deals for that. So my agent sold to Recorded Books for the audiobooks, and I don't get to do anything like listen to voices, look at a cover, you know, just done. I get the money and they go do it. Then it's out there. Now, when I heard Jonathan, I was like, oh, I like that voice. But I can remember it's been 20 years. You know,
Yeah.
it came on like a cassette tape. Back here, we were on a road trip. I put it in. I'm like, oh, I like this guy, but I just can't listen. I can't listen to my own. I just couldn't listen to my own work. It was so weird
Yeah.
Oh,
hearing
that's funny.
my rednecks, you know. So I'm glad I never did. But you know, hopefully they said Perdinalis and you know that kind of thing. But yeah, they're not going to ask the editor or the author how do you say these words? Did he? So he said Seguin. He's from Dallas, I thought. So well, maybe he's never heard of.
Yeah, that kind of threw me. But readers don't know everything, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But that one was just funny because you're so Texas. Everything Texas. So anyway,
Yeah.
just a fun story.
So just like with the print, I got the rights back on all those audiobooks and put them back out again through Audiobook Creation Exchange. Is something y'all should all be aware of.
Ah,
Because it's like it's an Amazon company that allows you to just find a narrator / producer and put your book out. And now there's different deal structures where you like either pay them a royalty share or pay them a flat rate or that kind of deal. But there's again, it's all in your control, other than you know the voice. But you get to like decide, okay, change this, change that, da da da. Versus
The voice is so critical.
it is. It is.
yeah.
The only problem on ACX, Audiobook Creation Exchange, is that there's a lot of people wanting to be narrators on there that probably should not be. Just being blunt. You know, again, I wouldn't be a good narrator, and I would want someone to tell me that. And but there's some good voices if you dig through, but then it can get pretty pricey. They do it by per finished hour, PFH is the way they call it. And so if your book ends up being 8 hours, you've struck a deal with the guy for like who knows how much, you know, it's just what you can find and what voice you like. But it's yeah, it's been, I mean, when with Recorded Books, I don't think I ever earned out. I'm sure you know that phrase, right? I don't think any of the deals ever earned out. So I just got the initial payment. That was it. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a lot of money, but with Audiobook Creation Exchange, it's been, they had one deal going. This is so funny. They gave away these promo codes. This is 5 or 6 years ago. Here's some promo codes. Go give them to readers and they'll love your books. So I do that occasionally, not really putting a lot of effort to it. Until finally one day I study my royalty statement. I'm like, we get paid for these. Even though it's a promo code, not only do we get paid for these, but it's like more than double the normal amount. I'm like, that's weird. Then I'm going, I have 4,000 of these because they give you 100 per book.
Wow.
And then you can get a second 100 after you've given away X number of the first 100. So I had 4,000 codes. I was sitting on a gold mine, and I was probably the only author in the whole program who had that kind of deal. So I went on this tear of just asking people in Facebook audiobook groups where you give away codes. I said, I'll give you 23 codes, but you got to redeem all of them right now.
Mm-hmm.
And people go, yep. So, I mean, it took me like 4 or 5 months, but I gave away 4,000 codes.
Wow.
That was a good year. I was like, how did they not know this? I thought for sure they're going to call me up and go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
We can't pay you for that. But no,
It made to me such a big shift when you got your rights back, you took over your own marketing, basically.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that process and some of the lessons you've learned from basically owning your own marketing side?
Right. Well, and it's ironic that, I mean, coming from the ad business or the marketing business, whatever you want to call it, that I'm kind of cynical about the marketing of books, because to me, there's really only a couple things that actually sells more than 10 or 15 copies at a time. I mean, if you're talking about, I want to sell some books, it's BookBub. I'm sure you know BookBub. Everybody know BookBub? And they reject you a lot. And when they first came out, they didn't. You know, they had to take whatever. And so, man, I'd get it. I was so reluctant at first. I was like, it's going to be $1,000 for this ad. And so I asked another guy that was doing them routinely, Paul Levine, pretty well-known author. I said, do these work? He goes, oh, God, yeah. So I took a chance, and man, they work, you know, and because it might be going out to 3 million people. So whether you do a 99-cent deal with, I mean, hopefully you're all well-versed in all this. Sometimes I run into authors, people out with books right now that start asking me about countdown deals and all that kind of thing. And I find that their eyes glaze over and they have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm like, how do you not know this? You got to know this stuff. But you either enroll in Kindle Unlimited and KDP Select, which gets you into Kindle Unlimited, or you don't. I've chosen to do it. And I'm assuming you all know the benefits of that. Partly it's just getting paid per page reads, et cetera. And that's like 60% of my income is page reads versus flat out straight buying. So then once you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can do the Kindle countdown deals. So what you do is you, like, whether you're placing an ad with BookBub or one of the smaller, like, you know, Fussy Librarian or Book Gorilla, or there's a million of them, or a lot of them anyway. Not terribly, some of them are not terribly effective. If they pay for themselves, that's good. But you time it where once they tell you, yes, we're putting it out on that day, you get your Kindle countdown deal to coincide with that date, obviously, because then you can lower your price below $29.99 and still get your 70% royalty. Hopefully you all know this, because you gotta learn how to maximize your deals. So if you get, like, you know, ENT, or I don't even know some of the other ones now, because I don't do a whole lot of them. I just keep going for BookBub ads, not ads, featured deals.
BookBub, as my understanding is, BookBub would like you to be wide. They would like you to have a lot of different stores for your books, but your books are just in Amazon.
Yes.
So you've been successful at getting some BookBub ads.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it helps to get more BookBub followers.
I know. Yeah.
It's like if my publisher told me, like, once you hit 1,000 BookBub followers, that also helps.
Probably.
Yeah.
Huh.
Honestly,
That's nice to know, because I have 900 and something. I need to work on.
Everybody
that.
get personal favor, go join. Yeah. But I mean, they've gotten where they almost only give me BookBub feature deals, and they have ads too that you can get into, but I haven't had much luck with those. So I'm talking about feature deals whenever I say BookBub ads. They almost turn me down for anything except the first two books, you know, the first book, Buck Fever and Blanco, and the first book, Gauntlet X, the Roy Ballard series.
A lot of bigger publishers started going into those.
Yeah.
Competing for those spaces.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so I get like one BookBub a year, and I'm getting one. There's one coming up, but it's only Australia and somewhere. They said we can't do the U.S. this time. It's just I can't remember which countries, but I'm like, okay. And I've had one of those before, and it barely paid for itself. And it's like not moving that many books. Whereas in the old days, especially if you did like a 99-cent deal, I mean, you would easily pay for your BookBub ad. It cost $1,000 or whatever, and might sell a whole bunch of books. And also there'd be a weird spike on your audiobooks if you had audiobooks, because people are going, I don't know why they would look at BookBub and go buy audiobooks, but and it was just like those were the gravy days, and now BookBub is really rejecting me, and probably a lot of people a lot more. They're getting way more applications or submissions than they used to, and so I get about one a year. So, but that's the key thing, and then putting out a new book. Those are the things that really seem to sell books, you know. And when you put out a new one, it also seems to bump the older ones. And people just see about it or hear about it more, or a friend goes, hey, I read this, and you know, or that kind of thing. So what, I'm sorry.
Ask you a question about when you do your ads. So your first, because you have so many books in your two series. So when you have a new book come out, are you still trying to promote the first book, or do you promote the latest book and the first one to try to find new readers?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't do that much promotion because I don't find that much of it works. What I do when I have a new book, I've got a checklist of things. It's pretty casual, but like I have a email list from, what's it called? Monkey, what's it called? MailChimp. Yeah. And they've got like this, I got in long enough now that I mean, I don't pay them anything. And I think they've reformed their programs where, but I'm like grandfathered in, as long as I don't go over 2,000 for one email. Yeah. So I just broke it into like two separate lists. And so I send it out to all my readers that way. I post through BookBub, does a new release alert. I put it on Facebook, whatever. I don't know that any of it seems to really do that much, you know. And, you know, back when I was with St. Martin's and would go around and do book signings and tours and interviews and get reviews. Like, I remember second book, it was Bone Dry. It's aimed at hunters. Hey, you just made Field and Stream. If you're familiar with Field and Stream, they have like, I think it was at the time, maybe 3 million readers. You made the 5 best books of the year with Bone Dry. I was like, oh, here we go. Wow. I'm gonna sell so many books. This is gonna be the best thing ever. Nothing. Really? Nothing. Nothing. Yeah. I mean, just
those 3 million people don't read a lot.
They don't read fiction. They don't read fiction. They read Field and Stream magazine. But they don't read fiction, and plus they play, well, that's an elk on the cover. You know? Never know. But also had a bra hanging from the antler, so you would think that might lure them in a little bit. But anyway, so I mean, just all of that stuff just never really seemed. I mean, again, if you want to sell 10 or 15 books, that's a different story, and there's certainly nothing wrong with doing that. But if you want to sell, you know, a lot, you know, quite a bit more, then the only thing I found that really works is BookBub. There are some of the smaller ones that, as long as you just tone your expectations down, you might sell, you know, a couple hundred if you do. And I'm blanking on some of the names right now, but Fussy Librarian. What's the other one that does? Robin Reads, you know. And it's like the difference between, you know, however many there are, 15 or 20 of these smaller little services versus BookBub. It's just there's this gulf. It's like I wish somebody would at least break free enough to get halfway up there that would take more submissions, because
or they would have this, maybe they had a division that just did like or big 4 books, you know, something or just like a specific series, or maybe kind of start diversifying it to like more categories, because they do just one category.
Right. And then what was I just thinking? God dang it. Another point I wanted to make, it floated away.
I have another question. How do you handle print outside of Amazon?
I don't. It's all no. It's all.
So you're not like in Book People or Barnes and Noble.
I do have some at Book People because they've asked me to consign some over there.
Yeah.
I don't sell a whole bunch. It's very nice of them to let me be over there. And plus, they're tightening up their shelves. So it used to be I had a pretty good chunk of space there, and then they probably said, you know, we're getting to where we just need like your pick 2, I think it was. It's going to be the first in each series then. And but no, you know, I mean, very nice of them, and it could be that people are going over there and going, let me check that price on Amazon. You know, I can get the ebook for $5. Well, you know, but who knows?
But other bookstores, like just traditional bookstores, you're just not there.
No, my print sales, I guess this could be chicken or the egg thing, but my print sales are so negligible. I just haven't put a bunch of effort into it. My audiobooks outsell my print.
Wow.
You know, and the ebooks are king by far.
Mm-hmm.
But, and would that, you know, would that change if I was in a bunch of stores? Well, I mean, I think back about my experience with St. Martin's, or theoretically, I mean, all the Barnes and Nobles, or at least close to them, across the nation, or at least a pretty good chunk of them. I don't know exactly. They never really share all the numbers, but you know, I sold a decent number of books, not enough to make a living.
Well, they're adding, I think I saw on the news, 600 more brick and mortars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's like about a month ago, wasn't it? Yeah. Like,
that's good news.
It is very good news. Yes. People are going back into shops.
Textual experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just all about the ebook. And it's so funny how some folks that when I read their manuscript, I'm trying to give them advice, especially if they're brand new. Like I had a friend that randomly wrote a book, and it's very entertaining. He would, if I'd said, "Are you an author?" He'd say, "No, I'm not an author." But he wrote this book. It's entertaining. So I helped him put it out. It's doing all right, I guess. But just how determined he was to have a print copy, because it was just like he just didn't think of an ebook as a book, really. I don't think, you know. Yeah. I'm like, you might have to like kind of give up on that a little bit. I mean, no, we'll get it out. We did. We got it out for him. But I'm like, I think, you know, you should put more effort into selling ebooks than you think you should. You know, especially if he could put it down to $2.99 if he wanted, and instead of a print book that's $12 or $15, you got to mail it, and or they got to go get it, and the person's like, "Oh, I just bought it," you know. Yeah. So,
but if you have a traditional publisher, don't they put it out as ebooks as well? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I guess if you're Stephen King, you can say I'm hanging on to the ebook rights, and there's nothing to do about it. Yeah. I had one very popular local Austin author about 8 or 10 years ago, when it was just starting to go really well. He came to me for advice. I think he got all the rights back, similar to what I did, and said, you know, do you think I should put them out myself, or should I republish them? Some other outfit was going to republish them for him. And I pretty strongly encouraged him. Look, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think you ought to put them out yourself, and you probably could make. He sells very well. Great. He's a good guy, but he chose the opposite one. And I don't know. I don't know what, you know, I hope he's making good money, but I think he probably would have done really, really well if he'd gone out on his own, because he was kind of in the same position where he already had his reader base, you know.
Yeah, they were going to go with him.
Yeah.
Everybody probably knows this too, but you publish on Amazon for free. I guess everybody.
Yeah.
There's no charge to go through Kindle Direct Publishing.
Yeah.
But also,
so hey, there was a question online, and it's been sitting here for a while, so I thought I'd jump in and let you know, because I don't know if she can ask it herself.
Okay.
And it says, I don't know if you want to speak ill of your publishers, but in general, what do you see as the greatest problem with traditionally publishing right now?
Well, keep in mind, it's been, you know, 15 years since 12 years since I've been traditionally published. And it's just this feeling like, you know, you feel a little, you know, it's like things aren't in your control. You feel a little lost and overlooked. It's like, even if you're in all the Barnes and Nobles, I mean, it's like drive to a Barnes and Noble in LA and you look for your book and you can't find it. It's definitely not on the front shelves, you know. And that has to do with Barnes and Noble too, not just the publishers, obviously, unless they struck some kind of deal. It's just so much is not in your control. It's like, as I mentioned earlier, I think I would pitch agents just to see if I get the home run deal. But my personality is I would so much rather just have total control with good input from intelligent people. Like I've got my 5 editors, my 5 proofreaders, my talented wife doing art and all that kind of thing. And I couldn't do it without them, but it's still all ultimately, I decide really everything, you know, what I'm writing, when it's going out. It's like the idea that you might pitch an idea and have an editor go, it's like, it's like, that's so foreign to me. There was a quote, I think it was Robert Parker that I tore out of a magazine once. It was like something about just the idea, like the idea really isn't that important as long as you tell it well. And it's like, I agree with that. I think you could just randomly throw a line out, like, what's the next book going to be about? Oh, a tornado comes through, and you know, just some mundane idea you make up in a moment's notice. But if you tell it well, I mean, think about most murder mysteries. Are they like, wow, that's outrageously creative, or not? You know, and most of them are just told well. You like the voice of the author,
Right.
so you know, like I think about a lot of mine. That yeah, it's like that's not that colorful an idea. It's just an idea, but I hopefully am telling it in a way that people want to read. Keep them flipping the pages, cliffhanger endings at the end of the chapter, that kind of deal, you know. So I don't know if I answered the question, but you know, some of y'all might want to pitch in. What are the problems with traditional publishing now? If you're pitching agents and dealing with publishers, what are you running into? Anybody?
I don't know. It's been so long. I never got to where you got. So it's been, you know, I gave up on trying to get an agent.
Did you
Well,
get
I'll tell you
after
what,
the first year, and I haven't looked back.
why I'm considering doing that for sure first is because I also work full time.
Yeah.
And to me, being able to hand over, you know, something that I've written and just hopefully, you know, someone would take the ball and run with it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do anything but write. That would be, you know, my, you know, pleasure for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, you would have to do a little bit more than that, but not obviously.
I think it's regardless of, like, I went to smaller press, but like my friends who have been with bigger publishers have to still do a vast amount of the marketing.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, most of us do. So you do get the editorial help, you get those kind of things, but when it comes to like ongoing getting reviews, like NetGalley's expensive now, you know, and so getting reviews ahead of time, a lot of that afterwork. I mean, regardless, it seems like unless you're in a very specific, you know, category with a big press, you're still going to be doing a lot of your own.
So how many of you have pitched agents? You have, didn't you? Didn't you say?
Well, I queried.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever actually did a face-to-face pitch, but yeah.
No, I meant query.
Yeah,
so how many queries would you say you sent out?
Well, in per book, maybe 20 to 30.
So in total, how many? Maybe
120. 100.
Anybody else? Can anyone beat that?
No, I last year after I finished my first novel, I queried probably about 70, and I got a lot of warm responses.
Oh, yeah.
I think that from what I've heard is that they're very overwhelmed. They're getting a lot of you know, a lot of people querying, and they kind of look at it and just either basically send a form letter saying, you know, thank you, but
right
for the most part.
Yeah, you get a bunch of the. Well, I don't know.
I mean, my analysis, post analysis now, is that they made the right decision because I didn't pitch a book that really they could sell. I mean, you know, they're looking at it, they're going to spend 20 seconds maybe. Yeah. And in the first 20 seconds, can I sell this book? The answer is no, boom, form letter.
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then they'll spend a little bit more time on it and trying to figure it out. And I wasn't pitching books that they could sell.
Well, that's very wise of you to come to that conclusion, you know, to look at your work with that kind of eye, because a lot of people don't, you know. But I had almost not 120. I think I had like 112 rejections before I got my agent. So it does take a lot, you know. And I probably, I don't know, a handful of them you get. This is back in the day, an actual letter they'd mail back to you in an envelope. So I don't know about today, but you'd get a little bit of positive input. Like, oh, I like this, but it's not for me, or that's cute, or too cute, you know, whatever. But something that says, keep plugging, or let me see what you do next, or something like that. Yeah, I have no idea. Oh, good, good. I didn't know if they even do that anymore. But if you're getting that,
though, but yes.
Yeah, so you're getting like.
I do get a little bit of that. Like some of them are like maybe 2 lines of like things, but you know, not for me.
No, that's all.
Some are like a little bit more personal.
That's
like, I like the tone or the story, but
good.
still it's not for them.
That's to me, in my opinion, that's crucial. You want to know, because a lot of people, I don't know that they're going to recognize that they like are a bad singer, to make the analogy, and or just not at the level where it might be published. You know, there's a lot of it out there, and that's That's just reality. And if you're getting nice little marks like that, you should be very happy, I would think,
Okay.
you know, because I mean, I never got any like big glowing remarks, but I got enough where I go, okay, there's an agent and they liked it. It's just not what they could sell, you know, that kind of deal. So
there's another question here. What about small or medium publishers? Any better than big ones?
Well, I mean, my only smaller one was with TCU Press, and you know, in hindsight, there's definitely some things I would have approached differently as far as the contract goes. But at the time, I didn't know any better. So you know, if you go to a smaller press, it's probably going to be a situation where you might not have an agent, or your agent's maybe not even going to negotiate the deal. I don't know. But like, I completely did the deal with I can't remember if my agent even looked at the deal, but there's nothing in it for her. I'm trying to remember if there was even an advance. I honestly don't remember, because it's a university press, you know. It's and I completely understand why their contract is the way it is, but I would have needed some things to change. That if I had really thought, if I'd realized how the ebooks were going to go and the Kindle, I would have said, okay, no thanks, because I don't know that there's even a reversion clause. If you know what a reversion clause is, meaning I can never get the book back, you know, no matter. I mean, I still get the royalties, but if it's $14 a year, that's not a big incentive, you know. I'd rather get it back and put it out myself at a lower price point, you know, because they tend to all overpriced stuff. And St. Martin's still has Gunshot, I don't even know what, like $11.99 or something for the ebook. I'm talking ebook, you know. It's like, because they got a special deal where they can price it above $9.99 and still get 70%. I guess all the big publishers do. So
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's like, why, you know what? People will write me, why is Gunshot not in Kindle Unlimited? They still got it. I can't do anything about it. I got the print rights back. They gave me that.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's a price sensitivity in terms of driving your sales, or a different price sensitivity for new books versus ones that have been stable for a while? What's your feel?
Honestly, I haven't really felt like it does. I feel like most of my sales, I think, go to people who are very loyal readers to me, which thank you. Yeah. I'm very fortunate. I have this very loyal base, you know. And so I don't think
you're a sick man, clearly. There's an attraction in that.
Nice, fellow traveler. Like, I don't think it makes a big difference if I go from $4.99 to $5.99 for the ebook, or even $6.99, or back down to $3.99. I think they're going to buy it regardless. And most of them are like, oh no, you know. Now, if I went up to $12.99, I'd probably like cut out some folks that just don't really have the budget for that. And I don't want it. I would never do that anyway, because I'm good where I am. And, but I haven't seen any real sales change in that area that I've played in, you know.
Like a threshold is, you know, a certain dollar amount. And if you stay under that, you're good.
Yeah. I don't know what the upper limit is, because I'm not going to push it for one thing. I don't want to like accidentally call out some readers, and I also don't want to damage my own sales, you know. It's like I want people, especially my loyal base, to be able to feel comfortable buying them. So, and plus, I don't know, $5.99 seems about right. I mean, it wasn't that long ago you buy mass market paperback for $5.99 or something. And then audiobooks, unfortunately with ACX, that program that's similar to KDP, but for audiobooks, you don't get to control the price. So, you know, it'll be $17 or whatever for an audiobook. But now they're coming out with AI books, whatever you think about AI, whether you hate it or not, if you get to a position where, let's say you publish a book and you're making some money and you want to do an audiobook, and you look at ACX and go, wow, I can't get anybody to do it on a royalty share deal, because they don't think I'm going to sell any books and they're not going to get anything out of it. So they want me to pay them a flat rate. You go, well, I don't want to spend $3, $4, $5 grand, or, you know, whatever deal you might be able to strike with this. So you decide, well, I'm going to try AI. People are going to, I mean, there's narrators that are understandably unhappy with AI coming. And I had one book that the driving lesson. It's been out for 12 years as an audiobook with a guy I paid 12 years ago. And I thought, I'm just going to pull it out and go back to AI because it's going to not. I paid him a flat rate, so it wasn't like I lost any royalties to him over these years. I paid him. He's done. He probably hadn't paid attention to the book in 12 years. But what it allowed me to do when you put out the AI version via Amazon now, not ACX, is you can come way down on the price. So I thought I'm going to explore this, and driving lesson is going to go from whatever it was, $13 because it's a shorter book. So I think I've got it down to like $4.99 or $3.99, which is a huge difference.
But if you already paid that, reader, couldn't you have just done that anyway? Or no, you can't with the contract that you had with them? Or?
No, I couldn't lower the price on his version because it's through
ACX controls.
Oh, got it. Okay, that was the piece I missed.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, got it.
Versus the AI books, there's a window they allow you to price it at. I think it goes as low as $3.99 for a full audiobook. Yeah. And you literally click, yes, I want to do that, and the audiobook's done.
And
now,
and how's it, what's your experience?
It was a lot better than I thought. Now, the sales, no. Sales, nothing. Hardly anything. Yeah. But that book doesn't sell. I got 2 standalones that just don't sell. And it's funny because to me, I'm like, hopefully I would think I would feel value in all my books. It's like, even if one is just completely silly, I've had people write me, oh, my so-and-so's been in the hospital. Your books gave me the first laughs. That makes you realize the value of even writing something that isn't like, substantial or like doesn't have a message. You're just bringing somebody a smile. But those 2 standalones to me are like, those have meat to them. And I'm like really proud of them. Yeah. And nobody reads them.
Like a series. Readers like a series.
Oh, yeah. That's why.
Avid readers.
Do you see this as a series? Yes. I see. But everybody dies at the end. I don't care. It's a series.
More people.
It'll be like.
Yes, I have on the AI version because I haven't been paying attention.
Okay.
I recorded 5 of mine, rented studios here and recorded 5 of the books, and they're on Audible. But when I got the info from Amazon, I thought, well, I want to use my voice. Can I send the ones I've already recorded and have them just, how they say, pick a voice here?
Yeah.
Could I just send one of mine and say, use this voice and do that? And I don't know if that's possible.
No, I don't
think it is.
Although there is an outfit that you do that with, but then you've got to figure out where you're going to distribute that book.
So did you upload them through ACX?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're on.
But the price.
I say ACX. They're on Audible, and you can buy them on Audible through Amazon.
Right, and the price is out of your control.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's your voice personally. Yeah.
And people like. For my books, they like hearing my voice.
Yeah.
They would probably like somebody else's too. There's probably some voice out there that sounds kind of like it that I could say, oh, fine.
Yeah, it's just, at least you saved the narrator voice.
But it's
price.
No,
yeah, it's like when I first did it, they had, I can't remember how many voices, like 8. Yeah. 4 males and 4 females. Yeah. It's like, that's not much. And you think with AI, they would have 80, 100, it's like, but they are expanding, and it's a beta program right now. At least it was when I so I don't know, like, I don't know.
I played around with this outfit called 11 Labs.
Yeah.
And they're very good. They have hundreds of voices. Yeah. 11 Labs.
But it's all AI.
It's all AI. Yeah. It's all AI. Yeah. But you can't take that book and put it on Amazon.
Oh.
Amazon won't take AI from another player. They actually use their experience.
Yeah.
They might be able to get it on Apple or other platforms, but you can't get it on.
And when I uploaded that driving lesson AI voice, I got a remark from a guy that's a voice talent, and he wasn't like mean, but he was pushing back on the whole concept of AI. I get that. Nobody wants to lose a job, but this was a case where I'm either sticking with this one that doesn't sell. I'm not recutting it with an actual human for money when it's not selling. So this was just an experiment. And it certainly wasn't like taking any money out of anybody's pocket. Also with Buck Fever and Roy Ballard, AI isn't there yet for me anyway. So I don't even have to think about that right now. I just did my latest audiobook, Johnny Peppers. And Johnny's very realistic about it. We've had this conversation. I said, look where it's going. And he goes, yeah, plus like he will be able to like read a certain number of sentences, and the AI program will go, read this whole book in Johnny Pepper's voice. That's where it's going. Yeah. And so if you want to hear a sample, just go to my copy of the driving list and listen. And like you'll sometimes go, it's a little weird, but mostly it's so much. It doesn't sound like Alexa good. Or something, you know. I mean,
it's pretty good.
Or like recording started, like it did. It doesn't sound like it sounds like a human being, mostly. You know? I mean, if you listen close, you're kind of like, this is such a vanilla voice, whereas Johnny Pepper's is obviously not. Right. And he can do different characters. I'm sure they're going to get to all that, where you choose, okay, this is Red O'Brien, and every time he speaks, it's a little more of a country sound, you know, and that kind of deal. That's all coming, I'm sure. And voice actors will lose their jobs. And there will be days, I'm sure, who knows how long, when authors will start to lose their job. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I've played around and plugged in, write a short story based on Ben Rader's Blanco County characters about John Marlin doing such and such, and it creates a little short story that's, I don't know, a couple thousand words, and it's not great, but I'm like, how does it do this? Now, it said something about like, you know, Blanco County Deputy John Marlin. I'm like, he's not a deputy, things like that. But it's going to get there one day where if, let's say you've written a series of 15 books and they're doing great, and suddenly AI is so good that you could just choose AI to write novels for you. Let's say you could write a 40-page outline, and then it would take that and write a full novel for you. And nobody could tell the difference. I mean,
but then you're not getting the pleasure of writing your book.
Right.
Right.
You're getting at least the pleasure of writing the outline and then editing the book and watching the sales. It's like, I mean, it's a fair point. Yeah. Now, I've been a writer for 40 years, and I don't know that I get the same pleasure that I did. Like the first time I walked into a Barnes & Noble and saw my book on the shelf, that was pretty cool. Right. But also the first time I was 20 and heard one of my radio spots on local program, I'm like, oh, look, that's my Southern Union Gas commercial. That's a thrill. Wears off after a while, you know.
Well, you rely on it for, you know, that's your job.
Is again very fortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, just
that's awesome.
Everything lined up.
Very awesome.
There's a lot of talented writers out there that just don't get where they would like to be, and it's not any reflection on their work. You know, it's very competitive.
Yeah.
I have read a couple of people where I'm like, oh, this is good, man, and I've tried to help them. And one in particular I'm thinking of right now, last I knew, didn't get anywhere. He had a deal with ABC for a TV series 10 years ago. And even I said, put that in your first sentence, you know, when you query, but I don't know that he's gotten anywhere. I don't know him super well. He's a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
But it was typical going into this. Will you read my manuscript? Okay. I start reading, going. Usually you can tell on the first page, can this person write? Definitely within about 3 or 4 pages. I mean, it's really easy, you know, and I was like, this guy can write. And I read the manuscript and I'm like, wow. Now, my liking it doesn't do anything for him, really, unfortunately. Right. It's like when people want my advice, usually, a lot of times I'll go, I'd rather give you publishing and marketing advice, assuming you have a good book, than for me to tell you whether or not I like your manuscript. Because me liking your manuscript is not going to do anything for you. Right. Even if I send you to my agent, I've never gotten anybody hooked up with an agent. I've sent people, and my agent retired now anyway, except for my film and TV agents. I did get one guy hooked up with them for film and TV, but they haven't sold anything.
So Ben, just a thought before we end. This is Jenny again.
Okay.
You sent my head on another conversation with itself about this AI stuff. And you know how AI works with music. I wonder if every author has their own flavor. And if you let AI write your stories based on what you've done before, yeah, maybe, but aren't they all going to start working by algorithms based on mainstream BS? You think?
They might.
I don't want that. I want.
Yeah. And I certainly wouldn't want to put that out. And I'm not sure. I'm not counting on. I can't imagine it even happening in my lifetime, to be honest. And I can't imagine myself putting out a book that was written by AI. Now, if I wrote the whole thing and then AI kind of edited it a little and then I went back through it. I might do that, but
it's all about profit, and that's what algorithms are for. That's how they shape the music we hear.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I don't listen to mainstream music anymore. I don't like it because I'm a different algorithm. If you'll notice, my handle is Legacy Gal. But anyway, that's
great.
Sorry.
I mean, I have authors that I absolutely love reading their work. I love, like, there's certain sentences that they write that I just, it's a great feeling to read them. But if you're letting AI write your books, you're not going to grow as an author either.
Good points.
I've got one last question. We're winding up, I guess. I was looking at Facebook, and here was a post from Ben Rader saying, what have you done? What kind deed have you done for a neighbor lately, or something like that? After the chaos we've been all living through in the last couple of weeks, I thought, that is the kindest thing I've ever seen. That is so wonderful. It's also very kind of you to be here with us today. It's been terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Sure.
I know you're already so well established with your readers. Specifically asking about reviews. You probably get quite a few through your newsletters and your readers automatically are going to review your books or anything. Do you have any advice for other people who maybe don't have as many books or, in the same category for getting a certain number of reviews?
Meaning Amazon reviews?
Yeah, just reaching out, because you never want to, like there's certain people that have always followed for, your series and automatically review. But a lot of people read a book that they love and don't review it. That happens.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's, Amazon on Kindle makes it pretty easy once online outside of that.
Well, and I don't know what Amazon does nowadays as far as like knowing everything about you and knowing, oh, this review that was just left was actually somebody that she's friends with on Facebook.
They'll take it down. They'll take it down.
Yes. If they know that.
Also, like with my publisher, we're not, even though we read one another's work and buy one another's work, we're not allowed to review one another's books, even if they're in different genres, because there's too close of a connection.
And I get that. And I don't know how they know these things. I mean, it's just like they know everything. Yeah. But for a while there, I would put out when I would put out a book on Facebook, I'd say, like the first 15 people that will leave a review, I'll give you a free copy of the book, ebook. So I just buy the ebook, so be whatever I priced it at, $3.99, but I'm making 70% of that back, and so the review would cost me $1 or something, And who knows? And I would say, but I honestly want a legit, honest review. I won't look at them. I leave, tell me, that kind of deal. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've done that. But anytime anybody says, "Oh, I really enjoyed your book," they email you, they tell you, do you have the time to leave a review on Amazon? You got to go. I forgot that so many times, but you got to get in the habit of going, would you mind leaving a review on Amazon? Or my friend read your book and loved it. Can you ask her, please? It's like, they will usually. I mean, I can't think of any time I ever asked somebody straight out, do you mind leaving a review, that they didn't, they usually will. Oh, yeah, I'd love to.
I guess maybe it's the asking too, because you get nice feedback from people and then, you don't think of that next step. Like,
I always forget.
I think to do that.
I forget. And now that's like, you'll see the Amazon rating and it'll say, 38 ratings, I think it says. They're not reviews. And then you actually click and you only got 3 or 4 reviews and the rest are just ratings. People can just rate it 1 to 5 and it counts. And they're theoretically people who have read it, but I think that's kind of a new deal versus reviews, which is probably good because Amazon just wants as much feedback from buyers as they can get.
Goodreads, you can review a book before it comes out, but Amazon won't post. Well, I mean, I know they've got certain workarounds with the bigger publishers, but usually until your pub day, they won't let any, and a lot of times people will forget at that point too. They've already read it. Already in that cycle.
One last thing. It says, do you have any advice for getting books into libraries?
At this point, having been traditionally published, and then this, I don't know how you get them into libraries now. I mean, honestly, in the old days, that was all out of my control anyway. But at least I would go, if you're doing all right with some sales, go to your local library And
Take them a copy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Yep.
I mean, that might
I've got a couple of mine.
Yeah.
Really bad.
get you into the
Well,
library.
A lot of libraries like to promote local
They
authors.
do,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you sell your books through Ingram, it makes it easier also.
Yes.
So.
So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a question that that librarians would be able to
Mhm.
answer better than I could. I honestly don't know. Although when you do list your book on Amazon, there's this thing called expanded distribution. All of you familiar with that? And that allows various organizations to order, I guess, at a wholesale price,
Mhm.
you know, bookstores,
Mhm.
libraries,
Mhm.
you know, other sellers. I don't even know what they are. I haven't found any like great success with clicking that or not clicking it. I don't really. And when they do buy through expanded distribution, the royalties are just so paltry, like 4 cents or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why do I make?
Why did I push that?
Yeah. Why do they make? Why now? Hopefully, you're just doing it because then the idea is, well, it's getting into that library, and then other people will buy it, you know. Yeah. Or that I want to support libraries by making sure they have access to a reduced price, blah blah blah. But when a bookstore chain is able to buy it, and then I get a 4% royalty or something, or 4-cent royalty, or I'm just making up whatever it is, but it's very low when you click for just those sales. Now your regular sales through Amazon are still whatever you adjust your sales price to make it, you know, 250, 350, whatever.
Can I ask you a question, Laura? How many reviews are you trying to get to?
No, I'm just because usually when you have subsequent books, like my first book, people like my second book came out, my first book, people will go back and find that, and you tend to get more reviews. It seems to be that your earlier books tend to get the higher number of reviews, even if you have loyal readers going on.
Okay.
You know, and I know with Ben, you've been able to really consistently keep, you know, people love these series, and so they keep, you know, automatically reviewing it. So I think some of it also is just letting people know that reviews really help other people find books too, or other, you know, it kind of is a good way to remind people that, like, if you love this particular series or you love this author, taking a few seconds to read a book, you know, to leave a review helps tremendously.
It does.
Support.
Yeah. Wish I had the magic bullet on
you know,
that.
I don't think there is one.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of different things that work at different times, and I think you just, and all you can do is try to create great stories and
yeah. I haven't even gone to the trouble of putting a note at the end of the book saying, if you enjoy this book, please review it up. I've never done that. I have no idea if it would even work. I know that Amazon populates the ebook, right? And says, you know, do you want to review this?
Or what? Yeah. At the end with Kindle Unlimited, it'll.
I think that's how you get a lot of ratings, I think.
Ratings at least,
all they have to do is hit that stop.
Yeah.
I think it's actually having to explain it. I think that stuff is with some people too. Like, well, I love the book, but I don't know how to explain why. Or
people are
intimidated by the writing.
They don't want to leave.
Oh, and the time.
Yeah.
Even if it takes 5 minutes.
You know.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Funny dialogue, good story, great setting. Yeah. Whatever. All righty.
Well, this is fantastic. This really was.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it as well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for everybody on Zoom also. You all.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
We'll see you later.
And don't forget the Moon series.
Moon series.
My mom.
Yes, I'm terribly lazy because I'm so ancient. I have this retirement income, so